All right, welcome to Frontlines, 5 o'clock here on the East Coast. Here are the top 5 stories we didn't want you to miss. The border is so secure, it's deterring illegals from even starting the journey here. The United Nations says that more than 14,000 Venezuelans have turned around since Trump took office. Just didn't even bother. Overall, northward migration is down, 97% this year. That's weird. All the lib says his policies wouldn't work. And how's this to fight the partisan judges? Pete Hegseth is sending 600 military lawyers to serve as temporary immigration judges. This is also how you clean up the 3.5 million case backlog, thanks to Biden. Supreme Court's also getting tired of the judges we do have, by the way. Plus, a video on social media shows Lisa Cook's declared primary personal residence is actually being rented out, according to an internet sleuth. Trump fired her from the Fed due to mortgage fraud allegations, which she denies, but evidence keeps piling up to support Trump's move. And Trump is going to move Space Command from Colorado to Huntsville, Alabama. Trump says a part of the reason he's going to be using this is because of Colorado's mail-in voting policies. And a Pentagon watchdog reported back in April that this move could cost $400 million less due to cheaper construction and personnel costs. Plus, stocks have been soaring recently, and Bank of America says it may continue. They predict stocks could rally another 50% in 2 years. Now, if the Fed cuts interest rates this month, look out. But first, one of the Republicans' biggest obstacles, unions. And Trump, he's breaking them, especially the federal ones. Let's do this. Okay, Trump is breaking the federal unions. I mean, this is great. The New York Times freaking out like it's a bad thing. Sure, for the government employees it's bad, but not for the people that the government is supposed to be serving. This is the quiet battle that literally almost nobody, until this New York Times piece came out, no one's talking about this. This is while Trump is trying to shrink the federal workforce.
In the process of dismantling these various agencies, federal employees are just being targeted. When they are canceling the union contracts of hundreds of thousands of employees. Just a couple of weeks ago, the VA Secretary, Collins, he canceled the union contract for over 400,000 VA workers. And it's just agency after agency.
Canceling union contracts are not attacking federal workers. But as of today, Trump has stripped collective bargaining rights to nearly 500,000 federal workers, with another 500,000 on the chopping block right around the corner. Now, these include the Environmental Protection Agency, civilians at the U.S. Coast Guard, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, that's FEMA, General Services Administration, the Department of Health and Human Services, Agriculture, Veterans Affairs, and parts of ICE. The former head of the AFL-CIO said, quote, "This is literally the largest act of union busting in American history. There's not another time when that many people lost their union." And I say, good, because they have sued this administration dozens of times for anything from like return to work policies because they didn't want to go back to the office, or for simply firing people that we don't need in government. Trump eliminates someone's position, the union sues, says you can't fire them. Yeah, you can. Trump keeps winning these lawsuits. And the lawsuits, though, they slow everything down. And while they're slowed down, they're costing us billions of dollars, taxpayer dollars. Trump is getting around this historic power by essentially saying, hey, look, your unions are interfering with matters of national security, serving veterans, and other functionality of sectors in which they work. Look, take the VA, for example. Veterans are being served adequately in their one could argue probably not. It's much better now, but for the last 4 years under Biden, it was absolutely horrible. I know I deal with the VA, but these unions are putting the workers of those agencies before the veterans that they're supposed to be serving. But this is the tip of the iceberg. These federal unions might actually be standing in the way of Trump firing like a ton of people. But also the real issue, even bigger than the federal unions, is the private unions. Look, we saw the International Longshoremen's Association boss. Remember this? He was like pushing people around during the election.
I'll shut them down throughout the world to prove that we can beat them. I'll cripple you. I will cripple you, and you have no idea what that means.
A gangster. We saw the turmoil from the auto workers union, and one that I think might be the worst, the teachers union. Randy Weingarten, jumping up and down like a lunatic yesterday in a city where some grades, there are 30 schools in Illinois that are below grade level, some of which have a 0% proficiency in reading. And whoa, look at this. Just today, we find out that two of the largest teachers' unions funneled $43.5 million to left-wing causes. But didn't the leader of one of those groups say that the school should be strengthened, not abandoned?
Public schools should be strengthened, not abandoned.
Like I said, 0% proficiency in reading. The AFT, the union Randy Weingarten represents. By the way, this woman has no kids of her own, but prances around telling us what's best for our kids. At her direction, the AFT, the teachers union, spent almost 40% of their operational budget funding left-wing causes. Only 10% of that same budget went towards actual representational activities, which is the only thing they're there for. I would say that they've abandoned their mission quite a bit. The NEA isn't run by someone any better.
Our mission is clear. We will advocate for the rights of education professionals, and we will change this world for our students with that inner fire burning.
Maybe they should fund some public speaking classes so they don't sound crazy. Anyway, like, why the heck are they funding anything but education? Let me show you where some of that money is going to. Okay, you got the Tides Foundation. We've heard about them before. Here's their website. Tides is a nonprofit philanthropic organization dedicated to advancing social justice. Okay, what does that really mean? What do they really do with that? All right, well, they were one of the initial sponsors of BLM that gave money to groups that bailed rioters out of jail. They funded all types of anti-gun legislation. You want to go way back, they funded the MoveOn.org. You know that group that helped Bill Clinton move past the Monica Lewinsky scandal? Yeah. This seems like a great thing for teachers. I mean, like, great that your hard-earned money as a teacher goes in the form of union dues to that kind of junk. Here's more. They gave money to 1630. This was the group that was paying influencers, social media influencers in the last election, up to $8,000 a month to push pro-Democrat talking points. Ooh, by the way, those people had to sign NDAs to maintain secrecy of their involvement so it would sound a little bit more organic. Remember this woman?
I spent a lot of time on college campuses, and I spent a lot of time with
young men.
I love young men. I love frat guys.
Sorry for those frat guys. Yeah, I mean, like, she was one of the people that had teachers who make $63,000 a year, via the teachers union. They were confiscating hundreds of dollars from their $63,000 a year paycheck to pay her $100,000 a year to go party with young frat guys and go on podcasts and talk about it. Great use of teachers. Oh, what else? Oh, the New Venture Fund. Yep, I had to look this one up. Teachers unions are funding this. They say, we are creative problem solvers who help change leaders accelerate positive impact. I don't even know what that means, but they gave a bunch of money to abortion causes. They gave cumulatively millions of dollars nationwide and counting for abortion protests and things like that. They lit a ton of cash on fire advocating for climate justice and anti-Israel garbage. I'm sure all totally justified under the 501c3 protection, right? Keep in mind, their donors get to enjoy write-offs for their contributions. Here's another one. Future Forward. These are the organizations getting money from the teachers union. Here, look. Our mission is to help rebuild America's middle class and American democracy by advancing new ideas and fresh perspectives. It's all consultant speak. Another left-wing front. All of these, while our children's test scores are tanking in public education. But anytime you criticize with teachers union, any of these unions, they label you one of their funded social media influencers that, by the way, was paid for by a teacher. They label you like anti-labor, anti-teacher, anti-fair wage, that you hate the little guy. None of this is true. Trump has done more for the average working class in America than any of these unions have done. But because he doesn't kiss the union ring, like the Democrats do, they absolutely hate him for it. Look, unions may have started out protecting workers. They did a lot of good things at the rise of the industrial age. Some still do good stuff. But many have grown into these giant power-hungry blobs that are so far left that they don't even help the people that pay them their dues to exist anymore. Grover Norquist, president of Americans for Tax Reform. Grover, beautiful background, by the way. I got to ask, is it just me, or are Americans just growing away from unions at this point?
Well, we know they're growing away from them. When Reagan was president, 20% of people belonged to a union. It's down to 10%. Half of those are government employees, half are in the private sector. Americans are choosing to deal for themselves, to negotiate for themselves. They don't want to be in unions. The unions destroyed Michigan, Detroit, the auto industry in the Midwest. There's an auto industry in America. It's in the South, non-union. It moved away from the unions, which did so much damage to steel and auto, all those industries, very badly damaged. They're now doing the same thing to our cities and our schools, which is another problem.
Yeah, well, I've had actually union folks on this thing to discuss this, and I'm like, hey, look, you know, let's say everybody's getting paid $100,000 in factory X. You can, you know, well, like they did with Ford. If you then want to raise everybody's contracts to $150,000, well, guess what? They're going to cut 50% of the workforce, automate it, and yes, some of your workers will get paid $150,000, but 50% of them won't have a job. So would you rather have, you know, 1,000 employees employed at $100,000, or 500 employees employed at $150,000?
I can answer that question. They work to maximize dues, not to maximize the income of workers. The American Federation of Teachers president made the comment, this is a while ago, he said, when the kids start paying dues, I'll care about the kids. He was pretty clear.
Wow.
I don't work for the kids. I don't work for parents. I don't work for the kids. I work for the union bosses.
It's so bad. All right, I want to get to something a little bit different. There's, you know, obviously more fraud, okay, out of Michigan. State Republican lawmakers found that, and so, a lot of these people are union members, or these jobs were set to be union jobs. 4,277 phantom jobs that were created and funded by Democrat leaders in the budget. Now, the Michigan House Republicans, they say this is $5 billion worth of waste, fraud, and abuse in their budget.
One, this really needs to be looked into because it's a big, big number. Two, if Michigan can do it, which is a state that's gone back and forth between Republicans and Democrats, you have to be very careful if you think the Republicans can, and they did here, get into the books. Do you think anyone in California or Chicago or Illinois loses any sleep over the idea that a Republican might get in to take a look at the books? Imagine what's happening in the deep blue states.
Yeah. No, but that's the other thing, too, is this is not just Michigan. Everywhere we look, it's like, hey, no, this is not happening. And then someone gets like 1 5-minute peek at any books from any state on any budget, particularly blue states, and you find out that you've just got all this trash in there that people are paying for. And most of it's just going out, just like USAID, funneled right back out into left-wing causes.
Yeah, the study that you showed that was done by Defending Education, Nicole Neely put that out. Groups like Nicole's, Defending Education, they're so who else is putting these numbers together and sharing them with you and through Newsmax, the American people? Americans are only beginning to understand the level of corruption that exists there, and brave state legislators in Michigan will hopefully encourage people in other states to start breaking through and getting transparency on some of those make-believe jobs that are just checks to the mob.
Yeah, well, I mean, what do you do? This makes me want to stop paying taxes.
Well, you reduce taxes and you really go after waste and abuse. I mean, there seems to be a lot more of it than we thought. That we just began to look at it with the whole effort that Elon Musk had. Remember when he started to open doors and the left would scream, don't open the door? That's the door you want to open.
Exactly. No, I think you're absolutely right. Grover Norquist, pleasure. Enjoy wherever you are. It looks beautiful, sir.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, Jasmine Crockett loves to run her mouth, and apparently she now has another accent. But first, The National Guard helped tackle crime in D.C. Now MSNBC, or MS Now, is even admitting Chicago does need the help. But Governor Pritzker, he's probably not going to ask for it. He actually didn't today. And all that and more next. Oh, look at that. It's finally happening. Trump said he's going to order troops to Chicago and Baltimore. Here's what else he had to say.
And he'll say, we don't want any protection. We don't need. So in the last 3 weeks, he's lost almost 20 people killed. There's no place in the world, including you can go to Afghanistan, you can go to places that you would think of. They don't even come close to this.
And then you got Pritzker speaking a little after Trump and still rejecting any help.
First, I want to address the president's unhinged remarks a few minutes ago, begging me to call him. No, I will not call the president, asking him to send troops to Chicago. I've made that clear already.
Look at Brandon Johnson back. He has no idea why he's there. You know, Trump is right, especially when Morning Joe says it.
Right now, just hey, nothing to see here moving along. No problem here. Hey, Donald Trump, we don't need you. And, you know, the mayor talking about we're going to protect people's dignity in our city. Well, protect their lives. That's protecting their dignity.
I can't believe I'm agreeing with that guy, who used to be a Republican, by the way. And actually, what Trump is doing in D.C. is working. I say this all the time. I knew it was going to work, and I knew they were going to freak out because they can't show the voters that it worked. Like, how can people be against less crime? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Chad Prather, host of the Chad Prather Show. Sir, I like not getting shot.
Man, it's my favorite pastime, actually. I love it, Carl. I don't want to get shot. I don't want to get shot at. You know what's funny? Every time President Trump says he's going to do something about the chaos in the streets, the same people who turn those cities into the war zones, they're the ones that are going to clutch their pearls and cry fascist and authoritarian. I mean, the drama that they really need to spare us. Chicago is like Beirut on a bad day. I mean, it's horrible. 54 people shot over a long weekend, Labor Day weekend, and these governors and these mayors, you're right, Brandon Johnson doesn't know he's on the planet. They're nowhere to be found. They're busy holding press conferences like Pritzker talking about equity while kids are being shot walking home from school. And, you know, the thing is, it's ridiculous. You know, you want to call Trump a dictator for sending in the National Guard. He sends them in because he's the only one with the guts to protect the innocent. When you got these cowardly, power-hungry politicians that won't do it, you got federal buildings under attack, agents getting bricks thrown at their heads, businesses are being torched, lives are ruined, and the left wants to call that mostly peaceful.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man, any state that refuses to act like this is happening in Illinois, the federal government, not only do they have the right, they have the responsibility to defend its people.
Yeah, again, this is why I pay taxes, so I don't get shot in the neck by some thug outside of a convenience store. Also, more complaints about making the county safer. Now LA, a judge is actually saying that Trump's use of the National Guard is illegal. And they always find some like meandering technicality that's just so ridiculous and it's so legalese that no normal person can understand what the heck they're talking about. But basically, a left-wing judge stops Trump from saving people's lives. And people are like, oh, on the left, they're like, oh, yay! It's unbelievable.
Let me tell you the hypocrisy of it all. These same Democrats, these same judges, these same governors and mayors, they're the ones who locked people in their house over a virus. They shut down businesses. They killed an economy. They forced kids to mask up and get on a Zoom call, took them out of school. When the real criminals are out on the street and suddenly law and order is called overreach, the National Guard is painted as some terrifying army when in reality, these people are citizen soldiers. They're the neighbors. They're the kids' Little League coaches. They're the men and women who step up when the city's falling apart. Yeah. Trump didn't unleash the National Guard to occupy cities. He sent them in there to clean up a freaking mess because of weak leadership that it created it.
Yeah.
I mean, Chicago, LA, I mean, the bloodshed is ridiculous. Nobody wants to go to cities anymore. They're cesspools of nasty, swamp-ridden, garbage, lefty, progressive violence.
Yeah,
and you bureaucrats just want to hide out.
Yeah, and you've got deodorant and toothpaste behind plastic shields because they worry about people stealing everything. It's just bizarre to me. All right, Democrats, by the way, Chad, I know you saw this. This is so funny. You know, they were like, oh, something's wrong with Trump after he didn't do this press conference. We talked about it yesterday. For 2 days, just 2 days, watch Trump's response to this.
It's sort of crazy, but last week I did numerous news conferences, all successful. They went very well, like this is going very well. And then I didn't do any for 2 days, and they said, there must be something wrong with him. Biden wouldn't do them for months. You wouldn't see him.
Biden locked himself with a cup of ice cream down there for 6 months. Nobody cared. Walks off into the jungle for no reason. People are like, no, he's totally fine.
Oh, yeah, and if you said he had a stutter, you were being mean. I mean, the dude lived on Rehoboth Beach. I mean, 53% of his presidency was spent out there laying in the sun in a shade deal, pretending to read a file. And don't forget when Lloyd Austin disappeared for 3 days and went in under
3 days. It was like a week. Nobody knew where he was.
Nobody knew.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable. Oh, God, you can't make this
Nobody
stuff
knew. And his second in command was off in the islands somewhere. Nobody was in charge.
Yeah. If you have the nuclear codes, like, maybe you should just, like, let somebody, like, it's like basic stuff with, like, your kid. Like, hey, just text me when you're home. It's like, nope, going to get a colonoscopy. I'll see you in a month. I don't know.
Yeah.
Check this out. Ilhan Omar. She's one of my least favorite people from the #1 terrorist recruiting capital of America. She's now reporting her net worth went from, at one point it was negative because she had like student loans, and so negative $45, and in just a matter of less than half a decade went to $30 million, including a $25 million holding value in some venture capital firm. This is a massive, it's like a 600 or 66,000% increase since 2023.
We're in the wrong job. We do the wrong thing.
Maybe.
Like, how in the world? I mean, marry your brother, get rich. I mean, how does that even look? This is crazy. I mean, how does this happen? How do these people go in there and make $174,000 a year and they come out with 30 million net positive? Doesn't make sense. I need somebody to show me that
if
math.
she spent $0 for her entire tenure there, she'd have like $1 million in the bank. And now she's getting $25 million holdings. Like, is she that star-spangled awesome at investment things?
I mean, apparently there's something that happens when you get in the Washington, D.C. Beltway and you join the swamp. You become an amazing capitalist.
Yeah, must be. I don't know. Anyway, Chad.
As Bernie said, you just got to write a book.
Yeah, that's what I've written 5 books. I've made virtually no money off them. People didn't know I could read.
Got a new one out right now called Born for Meaning, and let me tell you something. I think I've netted $125.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, we're rolling. Dinner's on you. All right, Chad Prather, my man. See you soon.
Thanks, Carl.
All right, folks, as you know, Mayor Giuliani was involved in an accident late Saturday evening, and today he was discharged from the hospital and deeply appreciates the love and, well wishes and prayers that everybody's been giving him. Dr. Maria Ryan, his medical provider and business partner, provided some additional details specifically to Newsmax. The mayor was flagged down by a woman who claiming she was being abused by her boyfriend. He called the police and waited until they arrived, but in a twist of circumstances, the woman was the aggressor and the boyfriend was found to be bloodied and in rough shape and was taken to the hospital. After finishing up there, he and his staff member, who was driving, were hit, quote, like a rocket from behind, severely impacting the right rear side of the car. Now, the mayor sustained several injuries, with the most concerning being a fracture of his spine, thoracic area level 9, and he's been discharged from the hospital, thankfully. Now, President Trump said Rudy Giuliani will get the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is kind of cool. Coming up, does Jasmine Crockett have a new accent, or is it just a worse version of what she's been talking in? All that and more in our Culture Clash. I mean, we are saved. Congress is back in session after a nice month-long break. While our elected officials, though, enjoyed their summer, we were here working pretty much all the time. I went out on the street today to ask if people have anything specific they want to see from Congress this term.
So Congress is back in session. We were wondering if you wanted to see anything out of Congress.
I want to see more jobs. We got to see more health care for everybody. You feel me? We need to get more money in the pockets of the people that deserve the money.
Definitely deficit reduction. That's a big thing, I think, we're seeing with the capital markets right now, and that people are losing faith in the dollar.
I want them to implement President Trump's illegal immigration, getting rid of the immigrants. That's what I'd like to see them accomplish.
I know one big problem that I keep reading about, all these big financial firms are buying up the single-family homes, so maybe some legislation to take care of that.
So we were actually just wondering what you want to see out of Congress now that they're back in session.
Lots of things. safety is the homelessness, mental health, making sure that's something, and that's a big thing I'm an advocate for. And I think that would be it. And something for schools, because I'm a teacher, and teachers need a lot.
Yeah. Would you support having some sort of security measures in schools?
Yes, but not for the teachers to have them.
Okay, fair enough. Also, obviously Congress is set to shut down the government if they can't pass a spending bill at the end of the month. What do you think?
I think that's. I don't want to say the word that I want to say, but I think it's poor. I think it's poor etiquette on the people who's in the office.
If you had to rate Congress 1 to 10, 10 being good, 1 being bad, what would you give them?
About a 3.
Yeah, Ben Jerby, political commentator, Trent Ellis, comedian and Instagram guy. Benj, what do you think about this? I'm not a big fan of Congress.
I mean, no one's a big fan of Congress. I think like herpes has a higher percentage of people liking them over. Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, Congress is like the worst. So yeah, but I'm with the guy who wants to get rid of the illegals. Like I'm with that. I'm even in a place like New York, we're seeing the actual effects of it. We're seeing it affect our schools. We're seeing it affect our children. We're seeing it affect crime. So yeah, if we can do that, let's do that. I'm all for it.
Yeah. Well, Trent, speaking of Congress, they're investigating Wikipedia for alleged bias. And Oversight Committee James Comer wrote a letter to Wikipedia saying, well, they're anti-Israel and a second investigation, detailed actions, hostile nation states and all this other stuff. They got pro-Kremlin stuff, the crazy stuff. And I know, Trent, I don't know about you, but I have a Wikipedia page. If I correct something that's wrong, they just go back on there and make it incorrect 30 minutes later.
Well, I mean, I think we've all known for decades now that Wikipedia, you can't even cite it in a college paper. You know what I mean? Like it's meant to where you can go in there and go 2 + 2 = 17 1/2. There's no accountability there. So I would say anybody that's going on to Wikipedia for their facts, I like to go on there and look at how old somebody is. How old is Nick Saban, or how old is when is DeBoer going to get bought out, or whatever that is, but I don't go on there for factual evidence.
No, and I'm actually, they used to have me listed as 195 pounds. I was like, bro, that's like, you're taking away 50 pounds of my gains. I was PO'd about that. All right, Benj, Jasmine Crockett, apparently a worse accent than before. Roll this.
These people, they are crazy because they always talk about how Christian they is. Yeah, I don't know how many of them on that side are getting divorced because they getting caught up sleeping with their co-workers.
She went to a private school in Westchester.
$35,000 a year.
I mean,
Carl, we were just talking about how good Christians we is. I mean, this lady with this stuff, I mean, the things that she's saying is absolutely crazy. And I mean, even in that video, I mean, what's up with she doesn't have a bra on. So she's like saggy Maggie, letting it all hang out.
I was looking
that's the first thing I saw. Like, if you are a member of Congress, ma'am, like, where's the decorum? Like, it's just going down further and further and further. I mean, the minstrel show just keeps going on. Like, is this our black leader? Is this who this is who they put in front of us, as black people to lead us? And she's our MLK, she's our Moses, and it's like, this is so insulting at this point. Like, why are we not insulted by it? Like, we're insulted by everything that Trump does. If Trump says the word black, there's a problem. But like, this lady is like our leader, seriously,
and
with no bra on. Like, what are we really doing here? What are we doing here?
Well,
Saggy Maggie, pack it up.
It was put on by Don Lemon.
Pack it up.
Trent, this is something right up your alley. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is looking to get rid of property taxes in his state. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I hate paying the government every year for a property that I own.
Oh, yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I would love to pay, more taxes to go to state agencies that, put you on hold for 28 minutes at 8:30 in the morning. And, the roads out here, they're in great conditions. Everybody knows that. So the taxpayers' money that's going to the state, these agencies and stuff like that, everybody knows it's being used appropriately.
Yeah.
So.
But I mean, like, you do a bunch of funny videos on Instagram about, the fact that, like, this makes a ton of sense. What am I paying for if I have a pothole the size of a Volkswagen in my road?
Oh, hey, well, and yourself being a veteran as well, I know you've dealt with the VA. That's another agency right there that all this, I mean, it's not a pothole, it's a big pothole. But, you look at all of taxpayer money that goes to just that agency. Yeah. And anytime that you have a phone call or a meeting or anything that you need, whether it's for your health care, your mental health, or whatever the case, it's embarrassing when you get on the phone or go to these places a lot of times and you're just sitting there thinking.
And
Yeah, I'm getting taxed again on this for what's all
to
this
speak,
going?
Yeah, and oftentimes to speak with somebody not even in America. But anyway, Benj, Trent, got to leave it right there. Appreciate it. All right, coming up, imagine being arrested over your social media post. Yeah, that happens in the UK a lot, but this is an even crazier one. Listen to these details next. We all know that freedom of speech is basically dead in the UK. Award-winning Irish comedian writer Graham Linehan was arrested by 5 armed police officers, ironically enough, as he stepped off the plane at Heathrow Airport in London. Now, this was over tweets about transgender activists on suspicion of inciting violence. Now, this is a 57-year-old TV writer saying, you know, he had been treated like a terrorist on arrival in Britain after a 10-hour flight from Arizona, even ended at the hospital after his blood pressure spiked. Now, he has since been ordered not to use the social media platform while being released on bail in Great Britain. But his crime was these 3 posts, one being posted, only one of which was posted in Great Britain physically. One from April 20th that read, if a trans-identified male in a female-only space is committing a violent, abusive act, make a scene, call the cops, and if all else fails, punch him in the bleep. A second tweet on April 19th was a picture of a trans rally with the caption of a photo saying, a photo you can smell. The third was a follow-up to that tweet, which read, I hate them, misogynists and homophobes, bleep them. And this is the state that Keir Starmer has in Britain. I mean, it's shameful. Kay Smythe, writer for KaySmytheHill.com and the Morgan Mitchell Turning Point contributor. All right, Kay, you're obviously from over there across the pond. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, can't think of somebody better for this one.
Yeah, I won't be going back anytime soon because I feel like just the interactions that you and I have probably had on Twitter would end us up in jail, Carl. Mm-hmm. I think that this is just another magical step towards Britain going further down the toilet, while this is a country that arrests probably one of the greatest comedy writers of all time. Like, for those who don't know, he created the show Father Ted. If you haven't seen it, it's probably one of the best shows ever. Really just like very close to the knuckle. Yeah. Irish comedy, the IT crowd. He is beloved. His work is beloved. His work has defined, his writing has defined British culture for multiple generations. And this is how we're going to treat him? Yeah, no, that sounds about right, because this is how Britain treats absolutely everyone who stands up for actual women. Yeah. Like, this is the country that will literally go out of its way to not protect young girls, but will arrest a guy who makes a joke on Twitter. Like, there are rape gangs, and they're just being let go. Are you kidding me?
Look, I should just ban myself from Great Britain or pack my handcuffs on the way over there. All right, so, Morgan, look at this. This is a video out of Philadelphia, by the way, not Somalia. These are Somali immigrants. They were just shutting down the road to pray in the middle of the street, stopping traffic. As of May 2025, there are approximately 81 mosques in Philadelphia. Why don't you go pray at one of those instead of on the double yellow line?
Yeah, honestly, I think that's 81 mosques too many in America. And this isn't Somalia. This is America. Of course, we have freedom of religion, but we are a country founded on Christian values. And I think that us Americans need to uphold those Christian values a little bit more in our country. This is what happens when you import the third world. You become the third world. It reminds me a little bit of Minneapolis, where, you know, they have the call to prayer legally to be displayed in public 5 times a day. And this is an American city that we're talking about. The more that I walk around in our American cities, the more hijabs I am seeing, the more Muslims that are out and about, which is not to say is not okay, but I do think that we need to start asking questions a little bit more of who's coming into this country and how many people we're allowing to take over these cities, because invading a city is just not okay.
Well, but also, you know, you seriously have to look at sometime when they start imposing Sharia law in some areas that, you know, is it a political ideology or is it a religion? And that's when you have to divide the two. Kay, Coldplay's lead singer, Coldplay is garbage. Chris Martin speaking out, like, this is outrage. He invited some young Israeli fans to join him on stage, and roll this.
Where did you come from today? From Israel. Okay, well, listen. I'm going to say this. I'm very grateful that you're here as humans, and I'm treating you as equal humans on earth, regardless of where you come from or don't come from. Thank you for being here. We're grateful, and thank you for being loving side. And although it's controversial, maybe, I also want to welcome people in the audience from Palestine because we have a belief that we're all equally human.
Basically, you're from Israel. It's not your fault. You're bad. Like, go back to catching people having an affair, Coldplay.
Yeah, literally. Like, go back to writing your trash music that all sounds the same, just like sad, garbled vomit, like just cry songs, and leave everyone else alone.
Yeah.
Like, I gotta side with Morgan here. Like, if you're in America, and also if you're from Britain, who like has a sovereign king that was placed into his position by God himself, it just blows my mind that we are stepping so far away from our faith and just so far into appeasing some faceless woke losers.
I want to give Morgan the last 15 seconds here.
You know, Coldplay really can't catch a break here with the scandals. I like how they're trying to be politically correct, but I'm sorry, imagine being one of these two Israeli women standing on stage and then they say, also Palestine, we want to recognize them. Like, it really just feels like a secondhand thought, like, oh, oops, we didn't know they're from Israel. Like, we were probably hoping that there was somebody from another country coming up here, so now try and clean up our mess.
Yeah.
I think it's just a total
You know what, Coldplay, go back to singing bad music. Okay, Morgan, appreciate it. All right, coming up, Democrats are once again avoiding the real problem and instead pointing the finger at guns, with Minnesota, Wisconsin, California, and many other states going to push for more gun bans in our 2A Tuesday next. All right, so it's 2A Tuesday. Let's do some gun stuff. Now, once again, Democrats are pointing the finger at guns instead of the real issue, which are transgender crazies in this case, and the result of these devastating shootings, like the one we saw last week in Minnesota. The state run by none other than Tim Walz, of course, the man who tried to convince America that he knows how to use a gun in like some desperate attempt to gain votes from the gun crowd, which didn't work. His big solution is to push state legislators to hold a special session on guns.
What happened last week is preventable because so many nations around the world do it. We just have more guns and the wrong types of guns that are on the streets. And I have made the case, and I'm calling through legislators to try and make sure they get there, because I can call a special session. I can't run a special session. And to be very candid, just in a very evenly divided, I'm going to need some Republicans to break with the orthodoxy and say that we need to do something on guns.
No. AWR Hawkins, Second Amendment columnist at Breitbart News. Eric Pratt, Senior Vice President at Gun Owners of America, which I feel might be filing a lawsuit should something go down there. AW, I look at this and I'm like, you're not addressing the problem of SSRIs, of trannies, of the slipping social morals in this country. But yes, let's blame spoons for making people fat.
Right. No, you're exactly right, Carl. I mean, you had this guy who wanted to identify as a female, who changed his name to Robin, who said, F those kids, where's your effing God now? Attacked during Mass and attacked a school purposely. We covered it, Breitbart. This guy looked at James Holmes, the Aurora movie theater attacker, and wanted to model after him and find unarmed people to kill. And then, as I say, he said, F those kids. I say all that. Where in there is a gun problem? The problem is not the gun. The problem is transgenderism. It's this liberal wokeness that has driven people crazy. And no one wants to address that, Carl.
Yeah. Well, here's another one, Eric, and you guys have been pretty vocal about this. Like the Pope, okay, from Chicago responded to the shooting with a plea to stop the, quote, pandemic of arms that's infecting the world. And I got to say, like, I realize there's a bunch of people who respect the Pope, but honestly, sit this one out, pal, because you're surrounded by guns in your stupid bubble car.
Yeah, great point. And honestly, it was a really unfortunate statement by the Pope for several reasons. First of all, our Savior himself told the disciples in Luke 22:36 that if they didn't have a sword, they should sell their cloaks and buy one. So the Bible is consistently in favor of self-defense with arms. But secondly, the problem of violence is not a gun problem. Since 1980 in this country, the number of guns has tripled, while at the same time, our murder rate has been cut in half. We literally have more guns, less crime. Guns are not the problem. Hammers are used to kill more often than AR-15s. It's the evil in people's hearts that's the problem. And real quick, the killer in Minnesota, as AWR was saying, specifically sought out a gun-free zone like the school. He said that in his manifesto. bottom line, gun control doesn't stop bad guys. It's a magnet for criminals.
And Massey is actually proposing a thing. He's trying to get the signatures now to get rid of gun-free zones, because that's 97% of shootings happen in gun-free zones, AW?
Yeah, that's right. Depending on what years you look at, between 94 and 97, I'm all for what Massey's doing here. I wrote on this, and he pushed my story out a little bit. But this Gun-Free School Zones Act, which was signed into law by George H.W. Bush, all it did is create zones where people know there are large groups of people sitting unarmed and defenseless. We got to get rid of them.
Eric, I got 30 seconds here. California's to ban Glocks, just Glocks, not anything else. This is like banning Toyotas. People go buy a different car.
Yeah, you know, for a state that's supposedly in favor of diversity, it seems like their idea of inclusion is making sure criminals have more rights than citizens. Look, this isn't going to make the average person any safer at all. It's only going to make sure that criminals and the state, but I repeat myself, it's only going to ensure that they have access to reliable firearms like Glocks. And, you know, they're just going to keep going down the tube in terms of crime.
Eric, I love you, brother, but I'm a SIG guy to the bone. That's all I carry. All right, AWR Hawkins, Eric Pratt, thank you. All right, before we go, remember all that election fraud stuff that the Dems said it wasn't happening? Turns out, second day in a row, happened again. Election fraud? No way. They said that doesn't happen. Again, second day this week we're reporting on this. The thing that they told us doesn't happen, it just happened again. A Milwaukee Police Department employee, well, former now, she's been fired, has been charged with election fraud and lying about her address. Marcy Patterson, the former Community Relations Engagement and Recruitment Director, whatever that is, according to a criminal complaint filed on August 25th, has been living outside of the city of Milwaukee, but voting in Milwaukee. That's weird. She used her 80-year-old mother's address to receive pay increases, too. Between March 2018 and April 2025, she voted in 12 of Milwaukee's elections while living outside the city. She also took a pay increase given to the police department employees who live in the city limits, receiving over $8,200 in unearned pay incentives because she said she lived there. Well, like this, whatever. This is why we need stricter election stuff and all these things. Marcy Patterson was charged with 1 count of election fraud, which is a felony and up to $10,000. Anyway, folks, stick around. Greta's next. We'll see you same time, same place tomorrow. Stick around. See you tomorrow.
He loves the Constitution. He fights for what's right. He hates the bad guys. He's a freedom warrior. He's your freedom warrior. Watch Carl Higbie every weekday on Newsmax.